page 3, just the like first area, kind of second paragraph, says CM Mahoney was told by someone on Smith Lane that the cost would be $32 per foot, and the final was much larger. And just to say what I did actually say is, and it was I handed you this report, but I just read this. This is what I found mentioned in April of this year, and it was actually in the minutes. And it said, the figures, the preliminary cost per foot as being less than $32 per foot. Is this within the realm of averages for this type of construction? And that was just a quote out of the April minutes instead. And my point was just that I'm giving the cost to the taxpayers before voting on the paving, and reviewing exactly how the process is done before we keep paving roads, just to make sure that we're real upfront with the citizens and the citizens understand things.
Any other changes? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carried 4-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve the budget workshop meeting minutes of August 27, 2018.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried 4-0. No returning tonight, so we'll move on to the sheriff's report, please.
Yes, sir. I don't think you guys have the pleasure to meet me yet. Lieutenant Klein with the Sheriff's Office, of course, the South Precinct. I am Lieutenant Gammon's counterpart, so when he's off, I'm on kind of thing. Unless we both just don't want to come in and take off, so. Which sometimes does happen too. So the statistics, we had 150 calls total for the Malabar area. There were 9 business. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me okay? Usually I'm pretty loud, so it works out well. There were 9 business alarms, 5 residential. There was 1 burglary. There were 10 crashes. Let's see, we had 13 disturbances. We had 3 DUIs. 1 overdose, which would be pertaining to the suicide that we had. We had 2 thefts, 10 traffic enforcement, and 7 traffic stops, and 2 wanted persons. That would be a little brief of it. I believe the statistics were emailed out. If not, I can leave this.
You get that.
Yeah.
We did.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Send it out to council.
Yes, sir. Okay, I just want to make sure you guys have a copy. These are for June. I do not have July and August. I've already put a request in to see why I don't have July's yet. But I'm sure those will be out pretty soon. Hopefully at the same time September's is, because they're a little behind.
Any questions?
I always have something. Seems to be that there's been a rash in the last several weeks or months of mishaps on Malabar Road, particularly at intersections, Quarry, Weber. Everybody's blaming it on the fact that DOT hasn't widened the road yet, but I'm not sure that's the only correction that's available. I think we need to. We've asked DOT to drop the speed limit to 45. They did go from 55 to 50, which is now 90. I think we need to, what would you think would be a good way to try to prevent some of these? Not all of them, because they aren't all going to get prevented.
No, absolutely.
But I think we need a little more traffic control in place on that road. Is it the Sheriff's Department's problem, or is it the State Highway Patrol's problem?
When it comes to, it's going to be DOT when it comes to actually changing anything or adding speed humps or lights or things like that. As far as enforcement, it would be us. And we'll work on the enforcement of this. And I know we have a lot of them that are going out there now. We have actually a deputy that is assigned to the zone for this area. We have 2 to 3 from, it's our 3 zones, which is 73, 74, 75. which is all the way to the county line. So some nights it gets really busy and they can't do as much enforcement, and sometimes it's not bad and they go out there and they work as best they can. But they have been told that they should be working some sort of traffic enforcement every shift.
I live on Weber Road, almost in the middle between Belcarry and Malabar Road, and people fly that road. And I've asked for increased enforcement there, which puts me at risk, because I've been known to miss the 35-mile-an-hour, take my foot off the pedal moment. In fact, the only way I drive 35 is to set cruise control for that. It's hard to stay down that way, but it's a whole lot safer. Many driveways and pets and children that are able to come out and just get in front of you. And I drive Malabar Road a lot. So I'm putting myself at risk by asking for increased enforcement. But that's okay, do it.
Well, I'll pass it on. They have been enforcing it quite a bit. Like I said, it's just sometimes we can't designate a deputy to enforce 24/7. I can reach out to the motor unit and see if they can send some more down here. But you know, we've got 7, 8 motor units, and they pretty much service the entire county. So I can see what we can do to raise our enforcement on it. But like I said, sometimes we're able to. Sometimes when it gets really busy, we're kind of stuck.
Thank you. Grant?
It's been reported to us in the past that there had been a rash of break-ins along US 1 in the Grant Valkyria area. Has that stopped, or is it moving north towards us?
We have not, I mean, we've had some in the past, but our numbers are still pretty low. I would call it quite as far as a rash just yet. We did have a homeless gentleman just break into a modular home in Barefoot Bay, for example, this weekend, the one we just had. We were able to catch him, but a lot of what we're seeing is it's kind of more like the homeless that are breaking into homes that they think are pretty much going to be not being lived in for the summer and things like that. I wouldn't call it a rash. It's pretty low key for the moment. But if it does get bad, don't worry. We'll be sending out information.
I was just wondering if it was down there and it was starting to move up here or not. It's
Not so
just
much.
you can't. That's not trackable at this point, right?
No, it's not to the point where we have any concern, because we do have an analyst that pays attention to all of those crime trends. As of right now, most of them are down there, but I think we have a little bit more of a homeless population down there that are a little bit more active.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Move on to board reports. Shirley Greenway.
Drew sent me an email and said he wasn't able to.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I have one for Liz.
For who?
Liz.
Okay. Then Park and Recreation.
I haven't heard anything from Eric.
Okay. And Planning and Zoning.
Liz called me just before the meeting. She could not make it this evening. And the only thing that they have now is they're still working on the sign ordinance. That's what their big push is. And they're having
Sorry, Marino. There's nothing to repeat.
significant backup with the minutes right now. It's just one of those things that's happening, and they have to get their minutes finalized and updated. So those are the two concerns that they have right now.
Thank you. All right. Move on to staff reports. Does
I don't have anything to say.
Tom is out vacation. Tom, he's out this week.
He's on vacation.
Go ahead.
What's the date that you're going to be out with us?
I'll be finishing it down with a written letter of resignation here within the next 2 weeks.
And the other question I have is, are we going to vet the applicants as a council?
Yeah, we'll get to that.
I have one question, that just occurred to me when you talking. The new signal at US 1 Malabar Road, they did away with the task to green. Okay. Are they anticipating giving us 2 left turn lanes?
Not to my knowledge.
Just one.
Well, then first off, why did they do such a thing?
I have no earthly idea.
I'm just curious.
There's 2 reasons for that.
Debbie knows.
Because Malabar Council asked them to. It says, reduce the speed on Highway 1, reduce the speed on Malabar Road, change that to full signalization to stop.
Well, I mean, I'm not complaining about them doing away with the pass-through green. What I'm thinking is, with the way that traffic backs up in the morning, it'd be great if they would put a right turn lane so you could have two left turn lanes.
The problem is
Idea to pass
the right turn lane starts at the oak tree.
Yeah,
And the sheriff will sit there, and you pass on the right, he'll pull you over.
yeah.
There cannot be a right turn lane, because officially it's only maybe 80 feet.
Yeah.
We'll go through the-
I'm just thinking,
You just
they've
gotta
already
wait.
got the dash line.
I've been timing it every day.
Yes.
It's between 5 and 8 minutes.
Yeah.
From Marie Street. I get on in Marie Street, it's backed up to Marie Street, so it's 8 minutes at the most.
Yeah. Well, it's not bad, it's just, I'm not usually going through there that early in the morning, but I've had to take my great grandkids to school the last couple of mornings. And I just noticed that, it does back up, and if they could make it a double turn, it might help a little bit.
Now, if I ever lived in a city where traffic didn't back up at times like that,
Yeah.
when we were down in Hollywood at the city's convention, it was commented to me that DOT was doing away with all of the continuous greens, a few at a time, all the way up to US 1, from Miami to Jacksonville. I called the land office after I got back from there, and they confirmed that that is the plan. They're not gonna do them all at once, they're gonna do it in stages and let people get used to that. I think there's one left at this end of the county.
Well, there's one at Port Malabar, but there's not near the traffic coming out of Port Malabar, it's at Malabar Road.
But that's not their concern. Their concern is the safety of the people on the roads, not the backup or the inconvenience.
Right, well,
And it should be concerned about the safety.
Okay, and I've had several citizens ask me about the delay on 514 in the morning at the rush hour, and I've timed the signal. From the experience that or the points that I timed it, the signal for the east-west traffic on time on 514 was full 60 seconds. For the north-south traffic on US 1 appeared to be 45 seconds. So during the rush hour traffic period, they seem to increase the time that you can pull off of Malabar Road onto US 1. And I have also noticed that the traffic load varies from week to week and from time to time during the morning. And I believe, isn't Harris off every other Friday?
Yes.
So the Friday that Harris is off, the traffic is considerably later here and moves through a lot quicker. But, and we did a year ago call FDOT and they did adjust the traffic signal timing to try and assist the people pulling off 514.
I have a question. Did I hear that council asked for the
Full
full,
signal.
we didn't, when
not-
did we
not
ask?
while I was on.
When did we ask for that?
It was during my first term on the
2 or
council.
3 years ago.
Okay,
14 or
I'll find
15.
a resolution and send it out to everybody.
thank you.
Any other questions?
There was an accident, actually, and right after we asked that is when the people were hurt or killed or whatever they were there in front of Yellow Dog.
Yeah.
Do you remember when that was?
No, that was before
That
we
was
were
long,
on
that was
council.
many more.
4 years old, during my first term on the council then, yeah.
I do have another question, okay? I signed a bill yesterday for ZipRecruiter to try to get applicants in for our public works monthly. And Debbie tells me we've got 20 through that.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Okay, and I know we just lost one. So how many people are we gonna be interviewing and how soon?
Well, Tom is on vacation this week, and not every applicant appears to be a suitable candidate, but he has a number pulled out. We've gotten a number in this week while he's been gone, and he'll start the interviewing process next week.
I did notice that they were out cleaning or mowing the intersections today, like we talked about. the last week.
And
They look much better.
we made a very strong comment about keeping the major intersections moved and all the school pickup points moved, period.
Looks good. And my wife and I, we did the sign at Furman Creek Park. Got it up today.
Looking good.
It looks much better. I know we may be losing that park if the state actually comes through with the drainage help that we want, but we felt like it needed to be done.
We're still arguing over some sort of a culvert and water control structure there at Park area.
That's it.
Yes, Dick?
We're talking about public works, I want to compliment Tom and John. When did Tom go on vacation? Because I saw him, it was either Friday, I think it was Saturday, that he and John were out checking around the town to see if there was anything he needed attended to, taking down some signs that were attached to our stop signs, which is against the law to tamper with a traffic control device. And they were cleaning up things. And my compliments to both of them that day, because I remember it was Saturday. They didn't need to be doing it. You know, that's not a normal work day, is it? So my compliments to them. And on public works, some are more obvious than others. I can't call the names of everybody that works for public works, and I should be able to, but I don't. And I didn't know we had just lost one. But I would like, I don't know how we can do this, but I'd love to see us encourage the people of town to have more pride in their town. There are certain areas where I can ride around and everything looks good, and there are other areas it's just junky. Whether it's mowing along the road between and on the right of way, or just leaving trash out. We ought to have some kind of a be proud of your town campaign. The better it looks, the better we feel.
Thank you. Okay, Clerk, do you have anything?
Yes, I do.
And the fire chief, not here?
Fire chief is
Excuse-
asked to be excused. Let's see, what do I have? We have a page in the Hometown News. It'll be in the last issue of every month. It's a little paper that you can get free here. You can subscribe for online service or home delivery. And our first issue came out, I gave everybody a copy and we framed it. It's here on the door of the closet. And just another reminder that the candidates in District 2 and 3, the first campaign finance report is due Friday. That's all I have.
All right, we have no public comments, so we'll move on to public hearings. So adopt the millage ordinance 2018-04. Please read by title only.
An ordinance of the Town of Malabar, Brevard County, Florida, adopting the millage rate of 2.1582 for the levy of ad valorem tax within the Town of Malabar for the period from October 1, 2018 through and including September 30th, 2019, providing for repeal and providing for an effective date.
I'll open up for a public hearing. Anyone from the public wish to speak? None seen. Public closed. We'll move on to staff. Is there a staff report to go on? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make it.
You make it, I'll second.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Any discussion?
I have something to say. The taxes really aren't exorbitant or anything like that. I just have it. I mentioned during our workshops that the transparency of putting things, especially public works, what's going on in public works, and I was reading the Hometown News and found out some things that Public Works was doing, and I didn't know until I read the newspaper, and so I am having trouble approving the taxes, knowing that we aren't doing our maintenance of stormwater during the January, February, and March, and I'm concerned too about, we've had a list of culverts, main culverts that we've had for years that aren't being addressed. And so I'm just thinking that throwing more money at it doesn't always solve the problem, and I just think we need to have more transparency, finding out what the schedule is for public works. So that's my concern.
Well, we all spent, what, 3 nights now working on this and hammering it out to move the money to the places we need to do. This comes across as a 10% increase, but I want people to realize that this is a 10% increase over this rollback rate, and it actually amounts to, what is it, Debbie, about a 3% increase?
Correct.
And our cost of living to everybody sitting here today, I think your cost of living over the last year has probably gone up 3%. I know certainly mine has with the things I'm buying every single day. I see my staples that I normally use. Everyone ends up being, oh, that's just a couple bucks more. Well, you know, that's a big percentage on something that was, you know, only 20 bucks to begin with, and now it's 22. So I feel good about the work that we as the council put into this, and I think we're keeping our tax rate across the board pretty low compared to everybody else we see. I think we've done a good job. I think we need to say, boy, we did a good job on this. So I'm for this. I'm not for increasing taxes, but we're talking about a 3%, and that's not much of an increase the way I see it.
Danny?
Well, we're going up from, what, 2.09 to 2.15. I mean, we're talking 600s, you know. And the fact is, you know, I'll take a little issue with throwing money at stuff. We don't have any money to throw at anything. You know, that's the sad part about it. I think from what I've seen, most townships our size have a millage rate closer to 4. You know, we couldn't do anything like that without a ballot measure. We didn't ask for a ballot measure this year, so we're at our limit for the next 2 years. And I would not ask for any great increase without the residents of our town approving. You know, we can't do that on our own, nor should we. But the fact is we don't have a dime left to spend on improving drainage more than what we've been doing. Now, I do have issue with the productivity of our public works. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, here we lose another employee in public works. We're back down to 2. You know, part of public works director is managing his people. Okay, and I had a manager once that didn't manage the people, and I finally told him, next one walks out the door, you're going with them. And that's exactly what I did. You know, we need better productivity. We did waste time this winter. I agree with you on that wholeheartedly. Okay, and we've given them the means this year, and their feet will be held to the fire next year. And I'm not happy with what's been going on so far. We just got to do it.
This is the 6th, I guess, budget that I've been involved in the development of. And my compliments to the town staff, particularly to Matt. We didn't have a whole lot of work to do to polish this to where we are today. It was done in the other room during the week. They did a phenomenal job in getting us ready for us to decide what to do with it. Much better than the previous years. And not to say there was anything wrong with the previous years. Did they come out right?
Any other
It was
comments?
intended to be a current compliment to the staff.
Any other comments? All right, we'll do a roll call vote.
Nay.
Councilmember Rivet is excused. Councilmember Corn.
Here. Hey. Yes.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Motion carried 3-1.
All right, we'll move on to adopt budget for stormwater utility, resolution 11-2018. Please read by title only.
A resolution of the Town of Malabar, Brevard County, Florida, certifying the tax roll and adopting the stormwater utility budget of $106,144 for the Town of Malabar for the period from October 1, 2018 through and including September 30th, 2019, providing for repeal and providing for an effective date.
We'll open up the public hearing. Anyone wish to speak on this topic?
I do.
All right, go ahead.
Is that enough?
You need to come up to the podium, state your name and address.
I'm Barry Proctor, I live at 1540 Atts Road. And has anybody told us or anyone else that that's enough money to do the stormwater budget?
It's.
Because I don't see it happening.
It's the estimated amount that we anticipate on getting on the tax collection next year.
And I don't hear anybody talking about stormwater and getting rid of stormwater and the improvements we can make.
It's a fund that is sponsored by the citizens. There's a rate that the county gives, and we get that money, and then we pool it together, and we just paved and did the stormwater management of Ada Lane. So it has to go to a certain project that meets the criteria.
Well,
Is there more money to be spent on?
is there any chance that this little creek is gonna get cleaned out for storms?
What creek?
I don't
Fern
know.
Creek.
That's right.
Go.
Fern Creek.
I went to the bridge at Fern Creek, and there's trees like this packed in there. You couldn't, if a pine needle fell in there, it would clog it up.
I don't believe the town has the right or the ability or the equipment to go on private property to do that sort of cleanup.
Well, who does?
Homeowners.
I mean, this is the only way we get water out of Malabar.
It goes across private land that we can't touch. The people that own the land have to take care of it. Or risk an eminent domain action, which we've been very reluctant to do. Where the town literally takes.
Isn't there a stance we could take with the state on invasive trees and get rid of some of this clogged up mess?
Yeah, I have something to say. The lawyer did give us permission, but we would have to work it with private property. And the lawyer is not here, but that would be a good question to ask for the lawyer. This particular stormwater utility assessment rule, there are only certain things that we can do with that, and we would need like the lawyer to help us. And
Well, I know I've had a conversation with Morris, and he agrees that thing is so clogged up that it's just a mess.
well, we should ask, like, if you could maybe send it in an email and like, forward it to the lawyer to ask what we could do about that.
At the time.
All right, that's it.
Any other comments?
Well,
No. Public. Okay, public closed. I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 11-2018.
so moved. I'll second.
Staff discussion? No?
Yeah, if I could just add something for clarification, this is actually part of the budget process. Because we can't approve the budget until we accept the assessment roll that we get from Brevard County. And once this is done, then this is forwarded to Brevard County, and they have the authority then to put it on the tax roll for our property owners. This is the one that you all agreed and voted, we had public hearings to increase from $36 to $52, I think. And it'll go up one more time in 2020. But this is the budgetary portion of that, and then what you're going to do with the money is a separate discussion.
Well,
And we'll have that,
Go ahead.
comment on that at a separate time.
Is that?
I'll comment on that at a separate time.
showing here, 104,377.
It's actually 106,144.
Okay, anyhow, yeah, thank you. That's not the limitation we have on what we can spend on working on our stormwater infrastructure. We can spend other funds on that. We can seek grants for infrastructure type grants, because the stormwater, the drainage system that we have is part of our infrastructure, not just our roads. But, and I know that Senator Nelson keeps talking in his campaign about trying to have money to enhance the infrastructures in the communities. I don't know if it's gonna happen or not. We thought it was gonna happen a year ago, it didn't. But it might. There's always that possibility. So we're not limiting ourselves to spending just that. We're going to do whatever we can, whenever possible, if it's necessary to do. Now, back to...
Well, that is necessary.
No, you can't.
Well, back to what you were talking about on the Fern Creek crossing. I remember I was on the Parks and Rec board.
Address the board. Address the council.
Council. Well, he mentioned the Fern Creek crossing. I was on the Parks and Rec board when that park was developed. And we had to go through, jump through a whole lot of hoops with St. John's Water Management District. They controlled that water. There was even an alligator in there that was under their control. So we can't do anything with that on our own without St. John's being a part of it.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I think what my friend Barry was getting at was, you know, first off, this money is a targeted fund that can only be used for stormwater management. Okay. But we are planning on spending much more than that. Okay. And we have purchased new equipment
Correct.
to give us the ability to do these things. But what I hear mostly is people want to know, okay, what's our plan for this coming year? What are we actually planning to do this year, okay? Because at the beginning of this year, we were supposed to do this big project over on Hall Road, and how many feet of that did we get done?
We just resolved the issues with the homeowners about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We're in the process of purchasing the materials, and we'll be starting back on that here in the next week or so.
But that's not what I asked, though. How many feet of that did we get done?
628.
Okay. And, you know, that's what people see, and that's my question. I know that's your question too, Laura, you know, is we want a plan. And I hear more reasons why we can't get stuff done than I hear solutions, you know. And I'm trying to be part of the solution. And what the people in this town, I think, really want to know is, okay, what are we planning on doing this year? And how soon are we going to get it done? What's our schedule, you know? That's all we want to know. You call it transparency. I just call it, tell me what you're going to do, you know? Tell me what we're doing this week. What did we get accomplished, you know? I don't care about breaking it down about how many men were on the job and what they were paid for the job. I just want to know what the job plan is and how we do it, you know? And I understand the problems with Fern Creek, okay? I think it was explained to me by you that a lot of it has to do with its wetlands, and we can't do anything about wetlands without St. John's River Authority getting involved and giving us the okay. But there's projects that we got started on that seem to stall, you know? And I'm rambling now.
Yeah, let's get back on.
Okay, all right, but that's what we're talking.
This has been an issue since 1980, since long before I ever moved here. The stormwater management has been a campaign promise problem. You know, we've gotten more done in the last couple of years than it was done in the 20 years prior to that. Even though a lot of noise has been made during those 20 years too. We're on the way to success, but we're not there yet.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Ball,
Aye.
Councilmember Mahoney,
Aye.
Councilmember Rivet is excused, Councilmember Corn,
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Motion carried 4-0.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on. Okay, the reason why these are done, like Debbie said, these are done in a specific order, so the budget is the last. Because we had put those numbers in our budget, so now we're down to the budget. So we have adopted budget ordinance 2018-05. Please read by title only.
An ordinance of the Town of Malabar, Brevard County, Florida, adopting the budget of $1,908,273 for the Town of Malabar for the period from October 1, 2018 through and including September 30th, 2019, providing for repeal and providing for an effective date. Section 1, the Town Council in regular session duly assembled adopt the final budget of $1,908,273 for the proposed expenditures commencing on October 1, 2018 through and including September 30th, 2019, reflecting the general operating millage of 2.1582 mils, in addition to the $106,144 in approved expenditures for stormwater projects funded through non-ad valorem fees.
We'll open it up for the public. Anyone from the public wishes to speak, please state your name and address for the record.
Brian Dale, 2700 Smith Lane. I just want it to be known, even though there is a 10%, 3%, however you want to do the math increase, there's still a $70,000 lesser amount for us to perform the same services for the town. So this year's budget is 70 grand less than last year's. Just letting it be known.
Anyone else? All right. Just the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the budget ordinance 2018-05.
I'll make that motion.
Aye. Staff, any further comments? Debbie, all right. Any discussion on council?
I'd like to make one comment. Doug showed me a year ago where our revenue for 10 years actually shrank. Okay, from 2006 to 16, we went from 1.65, I think, to 1.59, you know, and yet we've been expected to try to do the same things. And just like you said, Grant, I got ticked off at Walmart the other day because my giant Hershey's bar that I've paid $2 for the last 8 years went up to $2 and I think 15 cents or something like that. That's a big increase. So, no, it's $2.25 is what it
I like Hershey bars.
Yeah, I do too. Anyway, you know, the costs keep going up, and this budget is not out of line at all.
I appreciate that we work really hard together and the budget is not out of line, like, per item. I know that the maintaining of what we need done with the money does not seem to be put towards the things, the two items that the people want, which is roads and drainage. And we have built a bigger fire department. That's not a big problem, it's just that we have these residents that ask for one thing and then we go and build something else. And that's where, just wanting more transparency, and I brought it up at budget and it was not supposed to be brought up at budget, but just having things available so residents can see what is going on. And I was asked not to repeat the culverts, but those culverts haven't been being addressed, and they're just a basic maintenance idea, and I just think that, I guess I'm just saying, starve the money until it gets done properly with the maintenance of basics. So.
I agree with that.
I'd like to make one other comment in connection with Councilman White's mentioning of the revenue over the past 10 years from 2006 to 2005 to 2015. If the town had done no more than keep up with inflation during that time period, and this is basing inflation at 2.141%, our revenue at that period, I believe that would have been 3 years ago, would have been $2,100,000. So we're not even keeping up with inflation. And the other comment is we do have somewhat, no other comments, sorry.
Yeah.
I can remember for several years, it was almost a regular occurrence on the agenda, town council meetings for budget adjustments all through the year. Now, what we have a requirement to do to justify our being a municipality is to provide those needed services to ensure the health, welfare, happiness, and whatever of the people in town. Now, we've got a budget that's $70,000 lower than last year's. The ad valorem tax is up, we must have fewer contributors to that pot. Then, if the ad valorem tax is up, but the income is down, the expenditure is down. So we need to, again, continue all year to be sensitive to the needs of the people of this community and do that for which we are responsible to do. And if we need to make budget adjustments in the future, fine. But let's not start out today saying we're going to make adjustments. We need to be open to that possibility, but not decide to do it tonight. The budget looks good to me, but there are things that we can do better. I'm not going to get into that, we'd be here all night if we did that. But my point is, let's keep an open mind all year that we do that which benefits the people of our town, period.
Any other discussion? All right, do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Ball.
Aye.
Councilmember Mahoney.
Nay.
Councilmember Rivets excused. Councilmember Corn.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Motion carried 3-1.
All right, moved on down to miscellaneous. 2 qualifying candidates for 2018 election in precincts 325, 326, and 327, districts 1, 2, and 3. I just entertain a motion to approve the candidates.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
That's essentially that's all you.
Yeah. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. 4-0. All right, move on to Gilmore Street issues. Residents Dave Beaudry and Jean Cioffi. Are either of them here? Yeah. Please come up to the podium and one at a time. And state your name and address, please.
My name is Dave Beaudry. My address is 1540 Gilmore Street, Malabar, Florida. Actually, I don't think I just kind of walked into the room because most of you don't know me. I've lived here since 1991. I also had the pleasure of working here. I was probably, I believe, might have been your first code enforcement officer. I was instrumental in starting and writing the codes for the town. I also set up a system of citations, which would emanate by going into a court of law if the person didn't do what they were supposed to. That obviously has since been dropped. But the reason I'm here today is I'm quite aware of how the town works, and it was really ironic today coming up here because personally, I've lived in Country Cove when I first moved here, moved from there and built a new house on Gilmore Street in 2003. 2004, the hurricanes came through. And what a surprise that was. And it was at that point in time that I realized that the drainage situation on my road was not adequate. I went by all of the codes that the town gave me to do, I built my swale. So basically what I ended up doing was I ended up building a pond in the front of my house. The water went nowhere, and I have been trying to get it resolved for 14 years. And I have someone here can attest to that, and I hate to bring somebody in who works here, but Ms. Franklin also worked here when I worked here. So for 14 years, I've been coming to this town, not to complain, but to work with the council to get a problem taken care of in front of my house. And for 14 years, it's been ignored. And it's gotten worse. Not only have I been ignored with my complaint about my water problem, which just seemed to fall on deaf ears because I was just one. Again, having that code enforcement and ex-police officer in me, I was always looking for things going on after hours and weekends and so forth. I saw somebody building a right-of-way out of private property to come out of Country Cove, to come onto Gilmore Street, to circumvent going through the whole area. Brought that to the town's attention on several occasions. Even went so far as on a Saturday when the trucks were bringing the rocks in to build it, I called Doug, and Doug was gracious enough to come out. The only problem with that was he bought their line, hook, line, and sinker, that they were building a road into there so that the fire department could get in there if there was a fire. Right? And after that point in time, it was a constant barrage of trucks up and down my street. Right? It was like being on Malabar Road. I chose to go out of Country Cove, I chose to go in and live on a dirt road, and I have no problem with that. Okay. I asked for assistance. I was told that they were going to put some posts in, of which they did. I believe you were there, came down on the end of Gilmore Street, and they put some posts in at the very end of Gilmore Street to block off the trucks. But they weren't put in adequately, obviously, and within 2 days, the people who built this road came over there and just ripped them out with their pickup trucks. Then I was told that they were going to put in cement barriers, but they couldn't do that because the backhoe wasn't working. And then I was told that they were going to put a Jersey barrier in, but they couldn't do that either because they couldn't get anybody to give them one. So as a result, they just kept coming through. Until finally, I kept coming down here, and I kept going in, I kept talking to Doug, and I kept asking them, please, you gotta stop this. I have a granddaughter, I heard you say about grandchildren. I've got a granddaughter that lives with me. I live on a dirt road, I'm in a country area. She should be able to go out there and play without somebody in four-wheeler going up my road at 70 miles an hour and fishtailing all the way up. Nothing ever got done until I was finally told that the landowner took it upon himself or herself to go ahead and go in there and do this and stop them. I don't know for certain if that's true or not. I have to admit, I don't believe I've seen too many vehicles coming through there anymore, but it was just the fact that there was just a total lack of response on behalf of the town to a resident. I built my house here. I built 2 houses in Malabar. I've paid my taxes. I continue to pay my taxes, and I like Malabar. But the services that are being provided to the citizens, and it's really weird coming in here tonight because I've been listening to this. And some of you are here are saying the same thing. You're collecting money from us, but you're not putting it where it needs to be put. And you don't correct situations that are very easy to correct. It's not like I'm asking you to pave my street because I don't want dust on it. I know what the process behind that is and what needs to happen to that. I'm asking for simple, simple things. I had to go through weeks and weeks of getting somebody to stop and put signs up at the end of my Gilmore Street so that people didn't continually go through, which I believe your map still shows to this day, Allen Street, which is nothing but a mosh pit. Can't do anything about it. It's not a designated road. Then take it off the calendar. Take it off GPS. But finally, some posts were put up there, and that still hasn't done the problem. That still hasn't corrected the problem because people are just going around the post and going through there. Simple, simple, simple things that can be done before somebody gets in an accident, somebody gets hurt, and then they come after the town. And the last thing I'll say before I give it over to my neighbor is, again, I built a house in Malabar, and I'm very proud of my house, and I'm very proud of the town of Malabar. But the service that is being rendered to the people who pay their taxes in this town is going to hell. And I have to wonder where the money is going and what is the money going for? And who benefits from it, other than the people who work for the town? Because it's not the residents. I have a house that's out the end. If you ever go into the post office on Gilmore Street, all you have to do is go past the entrance into the post office and go down, and there's a house on the right-hand side there. I don't know who owns it, I don't know the name of the people, but it's a shithole. I built a beautiful home, and I take care of my property, and my neighbor just built a home next to me. It's a shithole. There is stuff piled up, mattresses, boxes, you name it. Now I have a used car lot there. And when I went to the town and I told them that this needed to be done because you can't have unregistered vehicles out in the open, I was told that they can have them there. That's not a problem. So, unless I'm totally wrong with how the code reads, you can't have unregistered vehicles exposed in your yard that are unregistered unless they're behind an enclosure where you can't. But I was told that that's perfectly fine. And I was also told by the town that a letter had been sent out and that in 14 days that they had to respond, and then I found out after 2 months that that letter never was sent. That there was never any contact with those people whatsoever. So I don't appreciate being lied to. And if there was a problem with it, and that I was wrong in what I considered the right thing to do, then I should have been contacted. And that's another thing this town doesn't do. This town does not contact people. When you bring in a complaint in here, or you talk to somebody, or you ask them about something, all you do is get lip service. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. You should take that emblem, and you should have a special ordinance. Take that sailboat off of there and replace it with a big giant set of lips. Because that's what you get in the town of Malabar for paying your taxes. You get told what you want to hear, and you get appeased to make you think something is happening. As I just stated earlier, and then I'll stop. 14 years I have been going around and around with this town to get that area, that drainage taken care of. And it wasn't until my neighbor built a house over there and realized that he was into the same problem that I was in, that we have a giant muck hole in front of our house. He will tell you about the number of times he's contacted this council, or this town, okay? And then when we finally said enough is enough, and we put it on the agenda, gentlemen and ladies, lo and behold, the clouds parted and the sun came out. I had people down there this week today, I had surveyors down there, I had cones in the street, I had everything you could think of that was out there, okay? And then I was told that the cars were going to be moved. They were going to get them out of there within 1 week and so forth. Why did I have to go through 14 years of asking kindly, not being abusive to the town? I understand the problems we have here, but I'm going to end, I'm just going to say that, because I don't expect you to give me an answer. But I want you to understand that this is what the people are dealing with here. And I agree with what you said, and I agree totally with what you said when I'm sitting here, because it all registered in my head. There is no plan. There is absolutely no plan in this town for what is got to be done. It's like, get up in the morning and let's roll the dice. The only problem you have in this town is stormwater management for the most part. That is the biggest problem you have in this town. And you guys can't get your acts together. Not just you. Like I said, I've been here since 1992. And since 1992, nobody can get their acts together. And if you were able to turn around and correct this and do what you need to do, and put the money you need to put. If you need to raise taxes, I don't think people are gonna mind if they're gonna get the service that they want done.
Point of order. Is there a time limit?
Actually, there isn't, he's on the agenda.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Are you done? I have one question first.
Yeah, sure, you can ask me.
My first question is, the house that you talked about with all the stuff was on the east side or the west side?
That would be on the west side.
West side.
Malabar.
You said right.
I'm sorry, it's on the
That's
east
why I
side.
wrote it. I thought-
The west side, it's on the west side, just as you go past the,
I
the
drove
post
down
office.
there, I drove down there last week, and Debbie asked me to go look and see what it is, and I understand your situation.
Yeah. I mean, we're trying to keep our property values up, and to me, that is not what I would consider or call what you want Malabar to represent,
Right.
okay? So with that, I'm gonna give it over to my neighbor, and he can
All right,
take it
hold
from
on,
there.
just a second.
Sure.
Is there any questions from council?
Well, I'd like to say, first off, I admire how calm you are.
You should have been out there the other day.
It's pretty calm too, but people have seen other sides too, so.
You're more with honey.
What can be done immediately?
I don't know, Mr. Hoyt just came up to
He's
us
he'll talk about it.
and said something to us about it, but I'm just trying to express to you the simple fact that this type of response to a citizen, whoever it might be, this gentleman just got up here, and I'm sitting there, I'm saying, wow, this is really crazy. He's got a perfect point. If you've got a point that's blocking something from draining, and it's gonna, the repercussions are gonna go downhill, so that it's gonna cause a problem somewhere else, so now you're gonna have, instead of one person talking to you, at some point you're gonna have 10 people yelling at you. Well, isn't it smarter to figure out let's get that over there taken care of, so that it doesn't end up backing up over here?
Yes.
And I don't understand, I just don't understand the rationale of how the council thinks about stuff like this. When you all sat here, almost every one of you sat here tonight and said the same thing. Stormwater management is the worst thing we have going for us. This is what causes us the most problems. This is what brings the most irate citizens out and so forth and so on. And yet, it doesn't seem to take a priority. It's always like, well, we'll put it over here and we'll see what we can do with it. If nobody says anything, then we'll be okay. Makes no sense to me.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Hi, good evening. My name is Gene Chaffee, and I live at 1560 Gilmore Street. I have a very long list of key points here that I'm just going to kind of put those all out there. Some of it is the same as what Mr. Beaudry said. I just want you to know that I represent right now both streets there, Gilmore Street and Weir Street. I do have some of my neighbors here present from Weir Street. I do own property from Gilmore Street to Weir Street, so I do absolutely have interest in what's going on at Weir Street as well. You need to be aware that your system of service requests on the internet does not work, okay? Everything I'm going to point out to you today was submitted twice through the town website. And that was done prior to July 11th. I included my phone number and my email address any way you wanted to get in touch with me. I'm going to reiterate all of these problems again. That was put on the town website, and I cannot even get an answer of who actually receives those service requests.
Excuse me, I just got cramp in my leg.
Okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No problem.
Debbie, hold on. Can you answer that?
Not completely. When they come through the backside of the website as an anonymous, I usually get them, but Deneen also gets them. But if it's a service request, I think they go to Deneen. But I can verify that tomorrow.
Okay.
I just
so-
wanted to figure it out,
So
because
no
people
big
do it
deal.
to me, like
So-
every week I get
Yeah.
anonymous.
I've been into the office and have asked that question, and nobody really has an answer to it. I don't know who runs your website. That service request form, when you hit send, goes to an email address someplace. I don't know what that email address is. I'm very big into technology, so normally it goes to some kind of service at Town of Malabar or whatever. And somebody picks up those emails and reads them. So, anyway, after that, after not getting any reply back from that, I actually got one of the town flyers and found out that my District 1 supervisor was Mr. Ball. I sent Mr. Ball emails on July 11th. I got no reply. I sent another email as a second request on July 30th, and I got no reply, okay? So we're gonna have all these things that have been sent to the town numerous times. The first time I visited Mr. Hoyt's office was on August 2nd. And we spoke about the drainage problems, we spoke about the cars at 1620 Gilmore. We spoke about a lot of things that's going on in my neighborhood. And then I'll go through again. But that being said, after I talked to Mr. Hoyt in his office, I still got no reply back for any of the problems that I'm going to talk about. So, as we discussed, and Mr. Boger brought up the drainage. He's had a problem since 2004. I've had a problem. We moved in the middle of September last year, so we're here almost a year. We felt the full effect of the hurricane, and you know, my swales being completely full. I have pictures of those if you would like to see what my swale looks like full, and myself and Mr. Boger's, just so you can kind of get an idea of what it actually looks like. More than happy to pass those around. You can keep them. I have copies of them. These were sent to Mr. Hoyt. They were offered to Mr. Ball. They were offered to anybody who'd want to look at them. When we were building the house, at the request of my builder, the town engineer was asked to come down to my house because of the swales. My builder says, where is this water going to go? My builder is Jim Clevenger with Springwater Homes. He's a local guy. And he had the town engineer at my property and said, this is what it's going to be. Okay, fine. We did what the town asked us to do. Through more discussions with Mr. Hoyt there, the town engineers signed off on all the drainage plans having no actual facts regarding elevations. I've had numerous discussions with Mr. Hoyt now again today, yesterday, that there is no survey for Gilmore Street. There apparently has been some work done on that today. But I don't know how an engineer signs off on anything without knowing the facts. Okay, so we created a pool in the front of my house. I paid to build a pool in the back of my house. I paid to build a pond in front of my house. So today, after discussions with Doug, there was surveying of the swales on the road to try and see what we can do about the water problem, which is great. Doug came to me before the meeting and asked if we can have another meeting in the next couple of days. They have an idea of what might work. It's great. I will make time for that, absolutely. So also with discussions with Mr. Hoyt, there is currently no plan for drainage in our area at all. Okay? So we're here, we have water, and there's no plan even. What are we going to do with this water? Okay? That's a problem. Okay? The road keeps getting more popular. There's been, including my house, there's been 3 houses built on the 2 streets in the past year. Some of my neighbors are here because they are concerned with the same things as I am. I'll show you a picture. One of my neighbors just had a culvert put in, or he had to have a culvert pulled in because he put a driveway in. And this is what the engineer actually told him to do. You can take a look at these pictures. I think they're pretty self-explanatory. But when you're told to put a culvert in between two telephone poles, where the telephone pole is right at the base of the pipe, is just very, very bad engineering practice. Okay, so when it's wet, that telephone pole is wet, right? That could be, last year, my swell was wet for 6 months. My swell didn't dry up until the spring, after the hurricane. And it just makes no sense. And it says, well, we can't do anything about telephone poles. No, but you can do something about the culvert, where it's placed, how it's done, and where the swales are supposed to be. But this is what my neighbor, who's actually here today, was told to do. It's just terrible engineering practice. 1620 Gilmore Street. There's cars parked on the property with no registrations. Burned up RV from last November, where you remember the cops and the police and the fire. There's an old boat on the property with no registration, probably somewhere from the 60s. In case you're not aware, this is what it looks like. You can pass those down. Just not very nice to look at. We've addressed this problem multiple times. It's very clear in the town code, section 1-5.16, parking and storage of vehicles. I'm not going to go out over that with you guys. You can read it for yourself. It's right on the county, on the town website, and it says that you cannot have this in your yard. So
It's, as long as it's behind the front of the house, there's a RV ordinance on we had to do this with Tom Etchenberg.
a registered RV
No, they
and not abandoned.
I don't recall that, but it's behind the front of the house.
Okay, here's 1-5.16. You can pass that to the mayor. You can read it. I mean, it's very clear. Any unregistered or quote abandoned vehicle on the property is not allowed.
It's smashed up in front too.
Okay, the right of way on the end of Gilmore Street, they have touched on this. There was really nothing done over there. I think finally the town got the landowner involved, I believe. About a month and a half ago, there were crews working on Saturday and Sunday specifically, clearing a fence line, or at least that's what they told me. So I don't know what that is. There's no fence. I don't know if there's a permit for a fence to go in there at this point. There might be. I have no idea. Maybe they're going to do that. If they do that, it's fantastic. Okay, cars came out of there fishtailing 40, 50 miles an hour down a dirt road. I'm not really sure where they were going, but that's where it was. The grading of the street, when I was in Mr. Hoyt's office, the grading of our street had not been done in at least 6 months. There were potholes in the street 10, 12 inches deep. And you would have to basically slalom down the street to drive down the street without ruining your car. While I was in the office, the secretary called Public Works and asked what was going on, when can it get done? They did get it done expeditiously. Next day or two, they said as soon as it was dry enough to grade the road, they would, and they did. So that was great. That was the one thing that we got done. Well, incredibly, it's been 3 weeks, hasn't been regraded. So I was told by Mr. Hoyt that the grading schedule is every 3 weeks. I don't care if it's every 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, as long as it's graded on a regular schedule, we don't end up with potholes. I understand I live on a dirt road, I chose to live on a dirt road, but up until about January of this year, the road was graded regularly. It was very smooth. It was better than most of the roads in Palm Bay, believe it or not. So it's true. We just expect the service that we're supposed to get. The grass cutting in the swale. So they just came along and cut the grass in the swale. They cut a 4-foot path down both sides, both Gilmore Street and Weir Street. That's it. They didn't do anything else. They didn't, the undeveloped property, they didn't do anything else with the grass. We have, next to Dave Beaudry's house, there's probably 10 or 12 feet before it gets to wooded, and it is fully wooded. And there's a path right next to the woods, 4 feet, and that's it. They didn't do any of the other work. They did the same thing on Weir Street, both sides. It's just, I hate to say it, but it's like a half-done job. I got better words for it, but I'm not gonna use it. It's just, you know, talking about pride in the community and cleaning up our community and loving our town. Well, we're trying to, it's just we're not getting that service out of the town. The other thing I want to talk about is yard debris. And yard debris happens to be a problem on our street. Hurricane last year, I had trees on the back side of my property and I put all my yard debris out after the hurricane. So after 3 or 4 months, I came into the office and said, when are you going to pick up my hurricane debris? They said they've been through 3 times, they're not doing it anymore. Well, 3 times except for Weir Street or Gilmore Street. Okay, so that's not between me and Waste Management as far as I'm concerned. I have a contract with Waste Management to do my trash and to do my recycling. The town has a contract with Waste Management to pick up yard debris, as far as I understand.
No, sir. It's the same contract for all of their services. Thursdays, they pick up the yard trash.
They don't.
I was involved in the writing of that contract. I'm in touch with the leaders of Waste Management on a more than once a week basis. I have no trouble getting to pick up my yard trash on Thursdays. They pick up the recycling on Fridays. They pick up the regular household trash on Tuesdays and Fridays.
Dick,
Yeah.
I believe this man might be talking about something that requires a claw truck.
Yeah, I do too.
Well,
And they come
they
over and pick it
Not my
up.
house.
Then you need to contact Waste Management. If that doesn't work, call me.
Okay, I sure will. All right, so, I mean, that's all I have. If there's any discussion for me, that's great.
Any questions?
You think I could
Go ahead, Grant. Grant?
Yeah, I'm waiting for you.
I'll make a copy.
I got it. Mr. Coffey,
Yes.
you said I had no response from me, and I called you on the phone and we had a conversation as I was driving down your street.
Yeah.
You said you had no comment.
I had contact with you after I was in
Yeah.
Doug Hoyt's
And then
office.
I came back, because I talked to Doug Hoyt before I called you, drove down the street to talk to you about it,
Yeah.
then came back and talked to Doug Hoyt,
Yes,
and Doug Hoyt gave me a situation which I have a problem with on your behalf. We can't drain the water into the culvert on Malabar Road because that belongs to the state of Malabar, and we can't drain water into there. We can't drain water to the north because we don't own the right-of-way, and we can't do that. And I said to Doug, I said, that's not acceptable. We have to figure something to do. And one of the things I was gonna do at the end of the meeting tonight, because I knew this was gonna come up, is bring up, and I can ask the question now, can we not buy that right-of-way going north to help them drain through eminent domain?
Actually, we've spent half of yesterday and all of today with myself, with our town engineer, with our deputy treasurer and clerk, and looked at the situation, and I believe that we'd like to meet with these 2 gentlemen at their convenience. I believe we have a workable solution that will be satisfactory to all parties.
I have the other question to go along with that isn't there a utilities easement through those properties?
Well, that's what I'm saying, if there is none, and, you know,
Well, there's a difference between a town right-of-way and a utility easement.
but this isn't the first time this has come up. we just had another drainage issue through the park, right?
From
Fern Creek.
Yeah.
We can't get on somebody's property. If we have these drainage issues, and maybe, it just came to me, maybe we should be bringing this up, where we can't get through somebody's property, take it by eminent domain.
Well,
Take a right-of-way, take an easement.
How about asking the property owner if the town was
Well-
to do the right thing?
I don't know that that works, because I think we tried that with the double D, right?
No.
But wasn't that a big deal with the Double D Ranch going through there where we were told we could, and when we went, we couldn't, and
No, that was that's in my district. Where we had a problem was we had permission of the double D owners to go on it. We had some of the more vocal people that live in that district complaining that the town was spending town money and town employees on private property. We were trying to get the job done with the permission of the property owner, and
well,
there
what
was
I'm
too much
saying
noise
is,
on the other side.
maybe we need to own some right-of-ways.
Hold on, let's keep it for questions to the applicant.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that.
But I just want to say, I did call you, and I did drive down there.
I didn't say that.
Well, you implied that he didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry if I implied that.
That's the way
I
I
did have
understood
a
it.
discussion with him afterwards. I'm sorry. And we spoke about that. I didn't know that there was much to talk about. I think my email was pretty concise of what was going on in that area. And I had, after sending 4 different ways of communication to the town, I mean, how many times am I gonna say the same thing to the same person? Okay, this is after I sat with the town administrator, okay, which Doug was fully aware of what was going on. My email was very, very clear. I have it. I can submit it. You can read it. It's the same thing we just talked about. Okay? And I want to say that you also told me that you were going to talk to the lawyer about 1620 and see what could be done about the property. Okay? So this is great. You called me back and we had a short discussion about these issues. Okay? That's great, you called me back. There was no follow-up from that point.
No, I followed up, I thought. we
Not
had
with
something
myself.
going with Doug, so.
Not with myself. And there was no follow-up after that point from Doug as well, until we're on the docket here today to speak in front of the town council. Okay, and then all kinds of things started happening really quick. Okay, so, which I appreciate, but this is not how a system is supposed to work. Okay, and you talk about pride in your town and cleaning up your town and making the town look better. And we're here actually trying to do that, okay? And, you know, you're talking about it, we're trying to do it, but there's no part of the town doing any action. And we spoke before about action speaks a whole hell of a lot louder than words do. You know, that's what we've gotten. They've said it multiple times. It's a lot of lip service. We're gonna. So, you know, I'm sorry if I didn't mean to imply that you never called me back. You did. I didn't feel like there was a lot to talk about. There was action on the town that should have been taken, whether it was yourself, whether it was the administrator, whether it was the lawyer, whether it was Public Works. It doesn't matter. But still, to this day, until we came on the docket to talk at the town meeting, did any feedback ever come back from anything on here? Except the fact that the road was graded, which I was promised it would be done, So I don't know when the next time it's scheduled to be done, but I hope it's soon.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah, follow.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to just say, along the lines of you were talking about going on private property, one of the things that I did state to Mr. Hoyt was that I asked him if he had ever thought, well, let me just stop 2 seconds. When I made the comment about, for 14 years, I had been trying this, there was a point in time in the late 1990s when I was still here, that the town of Malabar brought in, I'd say maybe about 15 to 20 cement pipes. And they brought them down onto Gilmore Street, and they lined the whole road, went around onto Allen Street. And I thought, you know, they were going to do something, and apparently it was just a storage area because they stayed there for 1.5 years, And then one day a truck came down with a backhoe behind it, and they put everything back on the truck, and out it went, and that was the last I ever saw it. But with that all being said, Mr. Browning is here, who's at the very end of Gilmore Street, and the property goes right into the pond. Again, I have no idea what you can, you can't do. But I spoke with Mr. Browning's mother the other day, because I had asked Mr. Hoyt, have you ever asked the property owner, because they have a flooding problem there at Allen Street in the end of Gilmore, would you, did you ever ask them, would you be amiable to letting the town come in, put a trench through? I mean, I realize it's not just digging a trench, all right? I'm not stupid. But if you, go in there and put a pipe in that would drain into that pond, if you can do that. And, well, I don't think we can do that. My question was, well, did you ever ask? You don't know until you ask. Well, Mrs. Browning said that she was amiable to the prospect. It would help alleviate her problem, like this gentleman here just said. Yes, it would, I mean, she's had such a bad problem down there with the water coming down and having nowhere to go, that she's ended up putting in a $10,000 new septic system. So it would be very, very advantageous to her. Now, whether or not it works, I don't know. But once again, if you don't ask the questions, and you don't create a big giant problem for yourself, maybe you can get things done that's a little bit less annoying to the town, and it's probably gonna be a lot easier for you. If you don't ask, you don't know. But I'm telling you right now, if she's amiable to it, now she may throw you off your property if you walk down there and ask her, but at least she's put out the fig leaf or the olive leaf and said that I'm interested, if they wanted to come in and put it right along the property line. So, check it out. That's all I'm saying. Check it out. Maybe it'll come up and it'll help you in the long run.
I have a
Thanks, Vic.
statement
Thank
when
you.
we look
Got a
at it.
question? Yeah.
Well, I just wanted a statement, but are we gonna talk about this
Yeah.
later?
Yeah.
I can wait.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you're
All I want to know is if these two gentlemen wish to meet in the near future and take a look at a couple of the solutions that the town may have for this situation.
Yes, I told you earlier,
Yes,
I have to check my schedule because I do work.
Take a time and a
So-
date. And we'll be
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
you can come up here. Name and address, please.
My name's Lee Del Prado. I live at 1600 Weir Street. The photo that you see, the culvert pipe, that was done on my property. Are you gonna meet with me also? Because the problem with Weir Street is Mark lives across the street from me. And there's a culvert pipe in between, running up underneath the road between our homes. Well, the water from the north, the water from the south runs down that ditch to that culvert pipe on his side, runs over my property and then floods two of my lots when it rains. And then it moves on down to the property that's north of me, and then it stays flooded to the point where there's ducks over there. I mean, you can walk over there and it's cleared lots, and there's ducks piled up in there. And so, if you're gonna meet with them because of the problem that they're having, I mean, there's two new houses on my street, and now all of a sudden, now I'm getting flooded on my property, on two of my lots.
This is
So,
the plan.
and just to take a little bit of venting, with that culvert pipe, the person that told me, and I sent out my plan to them, and they said that culvert pipe has to be 40 feet long, period, end of story. And so I measured in between those two telephone poles, and those two telephone poles are 37, 9 inches. 37 feet, 9 inches. So I said, smart thing to do, let's move it back away from those poles and put the whole pipe in, even though I was only putting in a 16-foot wide driveway, because the guy told me that it has to be DOT standards. And so I said, let's move it back, and then, Deneen, is that how you say your name,
Yes.
correct? I called Deneen, I said, the pipe doesn't fit in between these two poles. And so she got on the phone, and I sent photos, it went through an email, and she said, the town engineer said, cut the pipe. So now they cut the pipe, because DOT standards was 40 feet, now we've cut the pipe and we put it in between two telephone poles that now block that pipe off when the water starts, because, well, it doesn't really block off because the water doesn't go anywhere. But if you stand and look straight down the line, there's telephone poles in the middle of the swales, all the way down. What swale is left? Okay? And so now there's a house that was just put in, just finished, they just moved in. They had a culvert pipe put in also. It's not 40 feet. It's way less than 40 feet. Because their driveway is only 16 feet wide, and it has 2 feet on each side of it. And I said, what kind of standard are we going with? So there's an issue here.
Is your house built in the 60s?
No, sir, my house was built in 2003, 2004 timeframe. So,
40 feet seems a bit, mine's not 40 feet.
yeah, I thought, well, considering the original driveway that's to my house, because I have two driveways. The original driveway to my house, and I have a detached garage, and I wanted to put the driveway so I didn't have to back my boat up at an angle into my garage. So the culvert pipe that's in front of my house, the original one that's in front of the house built in 2003, is about 30 feet. So, well, it's actually only 30 feet, because again, it's a 16-foot driveway. You don't need 8 feet on each side of it. But somebody and I met the guy over here at the fish house. He's the one that told me he does all the surveys and stuff, and he said DOT standard is 40 feet. So,
I hate to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
The agenda item, I have to stand.
Yes, sir. That's fine. But we do have problems with drainage. Like I said, it doesn't run, it runs to the middle of the road. It's kind of like setting just like this. It runs to the middle of the road, hits my property, and then it sets there until it actually drains through the ground versus running off somewhere else. So if you're going to talk to them, you need to talk to me also.
Do you want
You need to talk to Mark also.
to leave
So,
yours and your neighbors?
great, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I agree with both of you wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly, you two right here. So,
Right, Doug? Anything else?
I'll be happy to meet with him, but that's a separate issue
Right,
at this
exactly.
point.
Right.
So, and I don't have adequate information on Muir Street. So, if he'll contact me, I'll be glad to go over and get that.
Okay. Right. Any other discussion?
I just want to let you know there was a permit pulled for the fence. The property owner is blocking off that illegal access that person from Country Cove has been cutting down. He had it posted, no trespassing, that didn't slow him down. Our post didn't slow him down. And so the property owner is got a permit and is putting up a fence.
Okay.
Thank you.
The property owner's attorney has been working on that for about 18 years to get that resolved, so, and it is a civil matter, not a town matter. So, but he's adamant about talking that off.
That's yeah, he's wrong. That's not right.
Yeah, okay, I like to usually have a little bit more thought put in this, but if I can put some of my thoughts together. I am really disappointed to have this discussion without the town attorney, because I just really think that this is important to have the town attorney for this discussion, to ask the questions that we really need to ask. We have spent money on private property, and it's not a good idea. We know that that's not a good idea from the lawyer, but the lawyer did say that we could clear simple things on private property, and I think that, you know, simple things like on Fern Creek, if it is just a pine needle, I mean, obviously it's more than a pine needle, but obviously if we could just clear something to make water move, we should do that. But as far as spending money, putting culverts and extra money onto somebody else's private property and then them not letting us have access afterwards is not a good idea. You know, that's not a good idea, but I do think that Doug helped, you know, going and help and getting information, but I do think somehow we need to get the attorney involved and help us to have legal ideas and what we need to do. And I just think that we need to start doing some basic maintenance. I mean, just that we have to get our public works able to do basic maintenance to make sure that water is moving. Right after the hurricanes, having flooding that some of these pictures show, I mean, we're going to have flooding. We just need to make sure that after the water settles, that it keeps continuing to move. And I think that's what our goal is. So.
Any other discussion? Well, go ahead.
I'd like to say, one of the most disturbing things I heard from you, Dave, and you, was that you had contacted and not gotten a reply, you know? And that's the worst thing I can think of. That, first off, I'm the world's worst. You can ask Debbie and check in my email, okay? But I have a phone number. And if you call me, I will always respond to you right away, you know? I'm trying to get better with emails. But the last thing that we should do as a town is ignore. And I'm sorry that that happened to you. We're talking about a schedule. I understand you guys built your house to spec to what we required, put a swale in, but there's no place for the water to go. And I understand the point that we can't dump it on 514 because that's state. And where can we go with it? And we can talk to this lady that you're talking about and see if we can get some help there. You know. So, but we need to work on it. I kind of wonder, maybe I shouldn't say this, but did Tom know that this stuff was going to hit the fan and take a vacation? You know.
Yeah.
But you know, again, right back to public works and things like you talk about your road not being graded for 6 months, you know. And I'm lucky I live on apps, so I don't have problems like you have. But I'm trying to see that the people around me that live on the dirt roads, the gravel roads, are trying to get the help they need, you know. And we finally purchased 2 major pieces of equipment this year where we can start doing ditch work. But again, we need somebody that's going to get it done, you know. So.
Any other comments? Dick?
Yeah, there's a lot involved here that both town responsibility and individual ownership responsibility. However, as far as not getting a response, I think they cleared that up when Councilman Ball said he did call back and admitted to it that he was wrong when he first said he didn't get calls back, but that's not my argument right now. Back in 1990, a few years after I moved,
You don't listen.
my wife has been here since 1969. If you were to look at I have this, during rainy weather, I have the shiniest front yard in Malabar. But I checked, there are laws. All of the water on our property, from 300 feet behind the house, all the way to the front, has to come to the front and into the ditch